So last video on the channel speaking about how Walsall were on course to promotion. We had a really good run over, December, January time, and things were looking up for the football club. Now we're going to speak about what's gone wrong in the second half of the season and how Walsall have blew a 12-point gap at the top of League Two and fell out the automatic promotion race and will be playing in a playoff campaign now. The second half of this campaign is nothing short of unforgivable for everyone at the football club. Like I mentioned before, I'll put a picture of this on screen now of the table on the 1st of January. Walsall had just bet Notts County 2-1 away. I think it was our 8th win in a row. We were 12 points clear at the top of League Two. I think we were 14 points clear of 4th. And then we were 17 points clear of Bradford with a game in hand, who finished in that 3rd spot in the end. So let's go through all the reasons why it's gone horribly wrong in this second half of the campaign. Starting off, we've only got ourselves to blame at the end of the day. You look at the form, really, over the last couple of months. I think it's 3 wins in our last 21 games. You don't deserve to get promoted on that form. I know other teams have had blips and have slipped up as well, but Walsall, have gone from having, kind of unstoppable form in the first half of the season to the second half of the season. It's relegation form, isn't it? And we've been playing like that, to be honest with you. The football hasn't been great at all. Going to speaking about that in a bit, but the form, unforgivable. 3 wins out of 21. Dropping too many points in there. You look at some of the games where we've dropped points. You look back at some of the away games. Bromley, Gillingham, that Cheltenham game when we're 2-0 up and then we drew 2-2 in the end. That was the start of a 13 winless run for the Saddlers, where we didn't pick up a win for about 2 months. Obviously finished the season with a 1-0 win away at Crewe. But, just the form hasn't been good enough. And the next reason I'm going to speak about is the system. I think the football over the last 3 months has been absolutely shocking and has been a tough watch at times. We are really predictable team to play against now. Teams know if they can kind of isolate the wing backs and, kind of stop our pivot player from playing when Alfie Chang has been playing in there. We're an easy team to play against. And, teams have come to the Bescott, especially, you look over the last few weeks, Accrington, Harrogate, Grimsby, Swindon have all come to the Walsall, had a game plan and just absolutely stopped us playing. And, there's absolutely no football being played from Walsall over the last 3 months, which is a really bad thing for me. I like to see good football played. I think, if you can get on the floor, the basics of football and play football, eventually something's going to happen. What Walsall have been doing, we've been playing this hoofball nonsense and just hoping for things to happen. Let's just clip a ball into the channel, hope we win a free kick, hope we win a long throw in and something come from that. Is it even happening at Crewe? That was, and obviously our goal come from it. But we're not kind of dominating games, controlling them. And like I said, teams have worked us out, and the football we're playing is absolutely shocking. There's no kind of way to adapt in game. That comes from obviously management and how they're coached at times to be played football. But it's been a real tough watch over the last 2 or 3 months. I think another change from the first half of the season to the second half of the season now is the press. That first half of the season, the way we were playing football is relentless. We'd play really high in the opposition half, forcing them into a mistake, and we're really punishing teams as well in doing that. Second half of the season, we're second to most balls. We don't win enough duels across the pitch. And that's been another big factor why, the form has really slipped off. Let's speak about January then. It was an absolute disaster, wasn't it? Obviously, we lost Nathan Lowe. He got recalled by Stoke. But I think the best word to describe kind of January and the second half of the season is we were too complacent. Look at that January transfer window, the business we did. It doesn't scream ambition to me. Obviously, Nathan Lowe got recalled. That was out of our hands. Nathan Lowe's Stoke player at the end of the day. We can't have any say if we can keep him or not. But what Walsall should have done was show a bit of ambition. We're top of the league. we could definitely attract some real top quality players. But what did Walsall decide to do? We decided to bring in a few loan players. And I think that just kind of speaks volumes what Walsall were trying to do. They thought, we're 12 points clear. We'll just bring in a few players, just see us over the line. What it should have been is bring in a few top quality players and put them on contracts and, see the job through going into next season. And we could have built, obviously, if we got automatic promotion from there. And, look at the loan players that are coming. Nathan Asimwe, Alfie Chang. I think they're decent players, but we've only been seeing them over the last, 3 or 4 weeks. And, we'll speak about Matt Sadler later, but, kind of that complacency and that arrogance in January has really cost us as well. Let's speak about it then. Matt Sadler, I think his stubbornness has cost us automatic promotion this season. Obviously, we've got a playoff campaign where we can kind of rescue it and hopefully get us over the line. But the stubbornness from Matt Sadler has ultimately cost us and bottled automatic promotion in the end and bottled the league ultimately. Just kind of his naivety and the stuff he does. So predictable, like I said at the start of the video, predictable and boring to watch. And, teams have worked this out, like I mentioned about the system, but he's unwilling to change, has kind of cost us in games at the end of the day. He hasn't really got a plan B, doesn't know how to adapt in game. I think the big thing from me, not once in his bad run of form, he tweaked the tactics really, or tweaked the formation. All he's done is really kind of changed light for light, bring in and out of players. For example, I remember we brought in Comley for Barrow. We haven't seen him since. Charlie Lakin, he's been in and out of the side, and no doubt that probably does affect the team morale. And players are probably confused. Sadler's got to take some responsibility personally, and he's got to change something. Be brave, and just switch it up. If you change the way we play or the formation, it gives the opposition something else to think about going into a game. And you look at the run of form. We've been on 3 wins out of 21. Obviously, we had a 13-game winless run in that second half of the season. I think, regardless what happens this season, obviously, if Matt Sadler gets us promoted for the playoffs or not, I don't think he should be in charge for next season. I just think what's happened in this second half of the season is simply unforgivable and unacceptable. Personally, the football on show as well has been a disgrace, and hopefully he can get us over the line in the playoffs. But like I said, I don't think he should be in charge going into next season, no matter what league we're in. And I think Matt Sadler doesn't do himself any favours in his post-match interviews. If you listen to him, they're so boring and just, doesn't fill you with much hope, do they? I think one thing he does unwillingly not do is just kind of take some responsibility in his post-match interviews. Just say, we weren't good enough in this game. And then, he doesn't say that. He'll say we've played very good, which, in some games, I've been questioning what game he's been watching. And it just gets the kind of the supporters' backs up, if you know what I mean. And, just a bit of responsibility. We need someone really with a bit of character, a bit of inspiration. And at times, I don't see that from Matt Sadler. And another thing from me with Matt Sadler is his mismanagement of the side. Harry Williams has been in and out of the side, since the second half of the season. He's probably one of our best players in the first half of the season. He randomly dropped him, and then he's come back in for the kind of remaining 4 or 5 games of the season. That was a real confusing one. Like I mentioned at the start of the video about recruitment with them loan players, we've only just seen them. There's a mismanagement. When players like Connor Barrett, Liam Gordon, they've been way off the boil for a long time. He's been unwilling to change, and you can see he's got, favourites in that side. And like I said before, his stubbornness has cost us automatic promotion and ultimately the title. I spoke about the manager. Next thing I'm going to speak about is the players. I personally think the players haven't done enough to get promoted in the second half of the season in terms of the performances. I could go through a few of the players, the likes of Jamie Jellis, Connor Barrett, Liam Gordon, a few others as well that just don't look their kind of selves in the second half of the season performances. First half of the season they were excellent. Second half they haven't been good enough. And football's a collective sport. And everyone, in terms of the players, they'll know it. They've got to take responsibility to what's happened in the second half of the season. I think it's a mentality thing. Like I go back to at the start and what I said about the complacency thing. I do think from everyone at the club, complacency did set in. and there's kind of an arrogance about us, and it's definitely backfired. The final thing I'm going to speak about before we go on and speak about the upcoming playoff games is Trivella. I think they're another reason what's happened in the second half of the season, really. Kind of their complacency in January, kind of just a lack of ambition. January would have been a perfect opportunity to really strengthen the side. We were top of the league. If we'd have gone in for a few top quality players, we would have, kind of had the ability to kind of attract players at that time. But their kind of ambition has let us down in January, and it's happened for the last three transfer windows. With loan players going back, you had Danny Johnson, Freddie Draper, and then Nathan Lowe in January, and we've got completely weaker. And you look at the last three seasons, post January, really had a slip off, really, and Trivella have got to take some responsibility as well. They've got to invest more on the pitch. They're going investing on sides, Droda and at Silkeborg in Denmark. I think, they need to focus on Walsall, getting us out of this league, and hopefully we do it for the playoffs. But, their ambition in January does speak volumes, in my opinion. I spoke about what's happened in the second half of the season. It's been unacceptable how we've kind of bottled promotion and the league title, but we've still got a playoff campaign where we can save our season and still get promoted. We'll also finish 4th, so we'll play 7th place Chesterfield in an away game first on Sunday, and then we'll play them at home on Friday night. It's going to be a real tough game. Chesterfield coming to the playoffs on form, got momentum. I think they've only lost 1 of the last 13 games. And my only worry going into the playoffs, I'm getting kind of flashbacks to what happened in 2015-16 in League One, where we kind of had a real slip off. Not as bad as this, but we did slip off in terms of a few months in the second half of the season. We ended up in the playoffs, and kind of the mentality and everything in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a real interesting one to see what happens with Walsall in the playoffs. Chesterfield, like I said, they've got players that have been there and done it, the likes of Will Grigg, Tom Naylor. They've got experienced players in that side, an experienced manager in Paul Cook, been there, won promotions, and that experience from Chesterfield could see them have a real advantage going into the playoffs. I think they're probably our favourites going into the playoffs as well, and it could work in Walsall's favour, being underdogs, less pressure, but it should not have come to this from Walsall, but it has. We've got to get on with it, and hopefully we kind of see a massive lift in these playoffs. Like I mentioned about the players, the management now, they have to really step up. If we really want to get promoted, obviously if we do go and get promoted, we'll have to have 3 massive performances in these playoff games. It's not going to be easy against Chesterfield, and I'm not confident going to the playoffs personally, but anything can happen, like I say. It'll be an interesting one to see, but like I said, the football this season is absolutely drained me, to be honest with you, and it's no good for anyone's health, is it? And it's the Walsall way, this is, isn't it? We don't do anything the easy way. Hopefully we go for the playoffs, but just a video on the channel. I haven't done one in a while, just speaking about what's happened in the second half of the season, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a successful playoff campaign instead of a heartbreaking one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the Saddlers and what's happened this season, especially second half of the season. Let me know in the comments, and up the Saddlers.